When I graduated from college, I went to work for Purex Corporation. That was in 1966, and they paid me $6,000 a year. They did give me a car and an expense account, but that's what I made. Thus far this month, I've made $246,766 off of my portfolio. That's right. And what I want to let you know is that this is happening because of the advent of AI. It won't continue. You need to know that. But first, let's look at why it's happening the way it is so that we can learn from that and anticipate when it's going to stop. What you first of all got to recognize is this is being driven by expenditure, that the hyperscalers are spending money to build out AI. You and I aren't spending money to build out AI. We're going to the grocery store and we're buying groceries. And in my case, on a weekly basis, I pay more for my groceries than I did for my first house. So I look at that and say, what's happening here? I spend more at a restaurant for a meal than I did on the payment on my first car. Inflation's here. It's gone high. If we look into it, we recognize that foreclosures are going up, bankruptcies are going up, repossessions of automobiles are going up, and yet these are the returns that I've made on my top 10 stocks over the last 6 months. Iran, 402%. Nebius, 240%. Credo, CRDO, 236. AEHR, 231. Navitas, 210. Applied Digital, 156. Every one of those are up that way, not because you and I are spending money with them, but because the hyperscalers are. And as soon as the hyperscalers stop spending money at Iran, Nabius, Credo, AEHR, and Navitas, the bottom's going to fall out of this. I mean, it's not that difficult to figure out. If you've got all this money being spent by Mark Zuckerberg and Microsoft, and they say we're done, who's going to replace that expenditure? Who's going to keep that price going up? Is it you? Do you have an extra $400 billion in your account to replace Mark Zuckerberg's expenditure? Probably not. So as an investor, we got two things we got to recognize. What's causing this? What's causing this inflection point that has driven my portfolio up where I made $246,000 thus far this month, and we're at the 23rd of the month. What's causing that? The hyperscalers' expenditure. What happens when they stop? How do we know when they stop? And that's the question that we all need to answer. Now, we can figure that answer out by asking, how did we figure out that Iran was going to go up 42% and Navitas was going to go up 240%? How did we figure that out? We looked at their financials. We looked at their growth projections of both their revenues and their earnings. And we saw that they were going up exponentially, and so we invested in them. We recognized the inflection point, that AI was going to change the world, but certain things had to be done first, and that's building out the data centers. But once they're built, the game's over. You just look back at a chart on Cisco, and you will see they built out the internet, and then once the internet was done, the activity went elsewhere. It went to those who were delivering the internet, whether it be through social media or e-commerce or your Word document. Those were the people then who took over from Cisco. So as an investor, what I have to do is be alert and say, when is it going to stop? And I know how I will figure that out. As soon as ChatGPT starts giving me the answers to my prompt immediately. Right now, I get one done and I go back to do the next analysis on another stock and it says, wait, in queue. Well, that tells me they don't have the compute power to meet the current demand. Once they have the compute power to meet the current demand, and I am able to put 2, 3 stock analysis back to back and maybe even run 2 or 3 of them at the same time, then the compute is there. And I need to say, what is the next inflection point? And is there enough capital to make it happen? Right now, I know that Amazon, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Meta have the capital to keep this going. But it will stop. And all I have to do as an investor is recognize the stop before it happens. How will I recognize that? I will look at these people's books every quarter, and when those numbers stop rising and start declining, I got to look and say, is somebody else going to pick up the ball? Is it going to be a software? Is it going to be Amazon or Google? Are they going to get back to where their growth is not 8% or 12% per year, but instead 30 and 50? I don't think so. But maybe I can find someone else who is. And how will I do that? I'll use artificial intelligence. I'll use Bart and Samantha the same way that I was able to achieve $246,766 worth of growth in my portfolio thus far this month through the 23rd of the month. So if I can do that, I can survive. On the other hand, if I look at it and I don't see anybody stepping up to the plate and saying, I'll replace Iran, I'll replace Navitas, I'll replace Credo, I'll replace AEHR, I'll replace APLD. Maybe it'll be SYM, who is robotizing distribution centers. Maybe it'll be Tesla, who is going to give me a robot that I can buy so Nita doesn't have to clean the bathrooms. Maybe that's it. But until I see that, I have to be measuring Iran, Navitas, Credo, that my 10 top stocks, to see, are their revenues continuing to grow? Or have they gone into a declining projection? That's how I use Samantha and Bart. It's so simple. All the knowledge in the world. That's what AI is. They're still building it out. Once that is built out and I can accurately predict the movements of the stocks from the data that's available, that's being analyzed by the AI agents I've built, I'll know when to go to cash. I'll know it, and I'll do it, and I'll share it with my tribe members and say it's time to sit on the sidelines and watch this thing collapse until the next inflection point comes. And that inflection point is going to have to come from the consumer. And I'm scared to death about it because I read in the Wall Street Journal on Sunday that in Seattle, the 2 largest employers, Microsoft and Amazon, aren't hiring. In fact, they're laying people off. And those people, those computer engineers, are showing up at the local Starbucks applying for jobs as baristas. And Starbucks is saying, we don't have any place for you. These are people who were making 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures. They lived in big houses. Maybe they're going to have to sell those houses. Maybe there's going to be a flood of real estate in Seattle. And Seattle is just the tip of the iceberg. It's going to happen in San Francisco. It's going to happen in Austin, Texas. It's going to happen all around the world as AI says, we don't need those legal assistants. In fact, Morgan & Morgan will say, we no longer need 500 lawyers across the United States. We've got AI. We only need 50, 1 in each state. And we'll let AI settle all the cases for us. That's going to happen in every aspect of our economy, particularly where data drives the profits. That's banking, that's financials, that's insurance. The list goes on. If it's driven by data, you don't need the people anymore because you have Samantha and Bart. And they go for about $216 a month. That's the world we live in. That's what you've got to pay attention to. And if you can't do it on your own, you best find somebody who can. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kerry. I'm a retired financial advisor. I did this same kind of playing ahead of the game as a financial advisor within the Ameriprise system. I grew to be the largest the financial advisor in their system because I played the game. I understood the game better than management did. At that point, I took middle management's salaries, and they decided they needed to get rid of me. I sold my business to my son, my daughter, and my nephew, and I came and started traveling the world until I lost my daughter to cancer, and I said, I need to find something to do. Why don't I get back into the financial world and see if I can figure this out, much as I did the financial planning world? Why don't I see if I can replace Goldman Sachs? Why don't I see if I can replace J.P. Morgan? And I'll be damned if about a year ago Sam Altman didn't deliver me the answer. I call her Samantha. I call him Bart. This and me and Mark and Trent have figured this out. I did a video yesterday playing upon Mark Cuban's quote that said, some dude sitting in his basement, this is my basement, I'm a dude, is going to be the first individual trillionaire. I don't really think I can do that, but why don't you stay tuned and see? Talk to you again tomorrow. More about this. Maybe not, I don't know. When do I stop sharing my knowledge and just keep it for myself? We'll see.